On a freezing night in Boston, back in 2018, the flashing lights of police cars painted the snowy streets in blue and red. Lying beside his black Mercedes was the body of Dr. Eric Miles, one of the country's most celebrated transplant surgeons. He'd been shot once, straight through the chest. At first glance, it seemed like a straightforward, brutal robbery. His wallet was gone, so was his phone. A tragic but all-too-common story of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But what detectives discovered inside his house would unravel that simple theory and plunge the nation into a terrifying nightmare. Behind a locked door in his basement, they found something that made their blood run cold. Dozens upon dozens of blood samples. Stacks of medical files and photographs of people. People who had all been reported missing. Every single file was stamped with the same strange, cryptic mark, C-47. The case was no longer just a local homicide. When the FBI took over, they officially renamed it Case 47, a name that would soon be whispered in fear across the country. Naturally, their first person of interest was Dr. Miles's widow, Rebecca Miles. They brought her in for questioning, expecting to find a grieving wife, perhaps with a secret or a motive. Instead, they found a woman who was calm, fiercely intelligent, and visibly shaken. And she said something that made the seasoned agents in the room freeze in their tracks. Eric wasn't a criminal, she stated, her voice trembling but firm. He was trying to stop one. Rebecca's story sounded like something ripped straight from a Hollywood blockbuster. She claimed her husband had stumbled upon a horrifying secret within the very walls of his own workplace, the prestigious Briarwood Medical Center. According to her, the hospital was secretly funding an illegal organ harvesting operation. Their victims. Patients who were declared brain dead, their lives supposedly over, but their bodies kept alive for a much more sinister purpose. At first, the agents were skeptical. It was a sensational, almost unbelievable accusation against a revered institution. But as they started to dig, the evidence began to align with Rebecca's shocking claims. FBI agent Jordan Keller, a specialist in financial crimes, began tracing the hospital's money trail. What she found was a complex web of suspicious payments, millions of dollars being wired to offshore accounts, all originating from the hospital's research department. And every single one of those transactions was labeled with one simple chilling code, C-47. The truth, when it finally emerged, was more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. C-47 wasn't just a random case number, it was a project name. Case 47 was a clandestine program, a black market assembly line for human organs, supplying a network of wealthy, private buyers across the United States and even abroad. Dr. Eric Miles, the brilliant surgeon, had discovered this grotesque enterprise operating under his own nose. He had been gathering proof, preparing to blow the whistle and expose the entire operation. But before he could deliver that proof to the authorities, he was silenced, permanently. The trial that followed became a national spectacle. The courtroom was packed to the brim every single day. Reporters squeezed into every available space. The families of the victims sat in stoic, heartbreaking silence, and federal agents stood guard, their faces grim. This wasn't just about one murder anymore. It was about the sanctity of medicine and the terrifying depths of human greed. The prosecution laid out its case with devastating precision. They displayed damning emails on giant screens, conversations where hospital executives discussed cleaning the records and the logistics of moving bodies, as if they were pieces of cargo. They played audio recordings, the hushed clinical voices of the conspirators filling the courtroom. Their words painting a picture of a system where life and death were just numbers on a balance sheet. And then came the twist that sent a shockwave through the entire medical community. The lead prosecutor revealed that every single illegal transaction, every offshore payment, had been approved by one person, the board's chairwoman, Dr. Vivian Grant. This was a woman who was considered a pillar of American medicine, a respected leader, a philanthropist. And now, she was being unveiled as the face of one of the country's darkest and most heinous crimes. She had built an empire on stolen lives. When the jury returned with the verdict, the nation held its breath. The foreman's voice was steady as he read it aloud. Guilty. Vivian Grant was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. A wave of gasps and murmurs swept through the courtroom. In the front row, Rebecca Miles finally broke down, tears streaming down her face. But they weren't tears of victory. They were tears of profound loss. Her husband was a hero, but he was gone, and the truth he died for had almost been buried with him. At the final hearing, Rebecca was given the chance to speak. Her voice, though soft, echoed through the silent courtroom, reaching every corner and every heart. "We call it healthcare," she said, her words heavy with the weight of her grief and the horror of what she had endured. But somewhere along the way, we stopped caring. The moral of this story is a chilling one. It shows how easily greed can corrupt, turning even the noblest of professions into a weapon. It's a stark reminder that justice doesn't always begin in a courtroom with gavels and judges. Sometimes it begins with the courage of a single person who decides to speak the truth, no matter how high the cost. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more content that matters. Stay safe and stay vigilant.